This Choircast podcast is brought to you by The Collective. At The Collective, we believe that justice isn't optional, it's actually sacred. That's why we're building a growing library of progressive resources, connecting you with queer and black-owned businesses, linking to books that challenge the status quo, and delivering content that empowers you to resist fascism with clarity and compassion. So join the movement. Support the mission. Visit The Collective, that's QUOLLECTIVE.com, The Collective, to learn more and get involved.
Bio males only get diagnosed with this when they are in prison and have a compulsory psychiatric exam because men don't ask for help.
Hey, it's me.
She's a former mayor. They're a former evangelical pastor with dissociative identity disorder. These two like to talk about the topics you're not supposed to talk about. They might cause you to perspire just a bit, but they'll definitely make you inspired. Let's talk religion and politics, and what spirituality and emotional well-being look like in a post-evangelical world. This is Paul and Ashley on Evangelicalish.
Well, I'm just looking at both of us. We have like wet curly hair. Like it looks like you and I both rolled out of bed and like fell in front of our computers, and here we are, ready to talk to each other for the next hour.
Well, thank you. I feel good about that.
You know what? I think we can pull it off.
Oh, I meant to bring your belt.
I have it. Shall I? I
You
have
have
it
it?
right here. I took it
Oh,
upstairs.
you all
If you'll
have to see
excuse
this.
me for just a moment, I shall retrieve it.
Ashley is the world champion now. You've got to see the belt she has to prove it.
Okay, so this leads into catching up on the week, but just feast your eyes. Can you even see it? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's so shiny.
it's reflecting your computer more
It
than
is
anything.
reflecting my computer.
Yeah.
It is a heavyweight championship belt that I received. It's got my picture on it. So actually, that's a great segue. We were going to catch up on our week here, and here's the craziest thing. Like, I had quite literally this Shark Tank of a week. Two things. One, in my day job, I'm involved with a bunch of people who are working on applying for these different state grants. And as a part of the third phase of evaluation of these grant proposals, we have to go up to San Francisco and we have to pitch our grant project idea as if we're in Shark Tank. So I already have Shark Tank on my mind. I'm already planning this 5-minute presentation where I have to sell the entire world on this great big thing that we're doing, whatever. Okay, fast forward. I go down to LA this week to moderate a conference, and who is our keynote speaker but Lori Grenier from Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally one of the things I got to interview her, and one of my questions to her was like, why do you think Shark Tank is so rooted now in American culture? Case in point, the state of California, they're like the government agencies are making grantees pitch their project ideas as if they were pitching a product in front of Lori Grenier and Mark Cuban and all the rest. Like, it is so like, oh my gosh, it's like ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, she was wonderful to talk to. She hugged me twice. So
You all have the opposite, whatever the female version of a bromance is.
we decided we had I decided we had a she-mance,
Okay.
and that we're best friends. After she got off the stage and was gone, I was like, did you guys see? Like, she loves me. Anyway, so that was
Is
my
she
week.
more your best friend than Rachel Maddow? Because I know you have
I think
kind
Lori,
of a one-sided she-mance with Rachel Maddow.
Lori and I are obviously best friends, and then I think we, like, Rachel is gonna have us over for Christmas dinner. So I'll do Thanksgiving with Lori and Christmas with Rachel.
But I am told by witnesses that she thought you had beautiful eyes.
She did. She stops in the middle of her sentence, like when she first turns to me, I'm asking my first question of her. And she goes, "Oh, you have the most beautiful blue eyes." I was like,
So
Lord, it was so
some
fun.
some folks may not know Lori Grenier. You mentioned she's on Shark Tank. Did she like start QVC or?
She did not. She
Okay.
had her own show on QVC. And
Oh,
so her
okay.
first product was this earring organizer, jewelry organizer. She sold it out on QVC. I don't know that that's exactly where she first started selling it, but she did have a big moment where like that was how that, she really got launched. And then
Because
she had her own show.
she's known as like the QVC person
Queen.
on
They
Shark
call it the
Tank.
QVC Queen. Yeah.
QVC Queen. There we go.
Anyway, so but yeah, she has 120 patents to her name, which is remarkable. I mean, I think she's probably the most prolific female entrepreneur in our generation.
And maybe I should say she's the younger, the
Mhm.
blonde woman.
The long blonde hair.
There's the slightly older woman with the short hair who is
Barbara.
who's
Yes.
into real estate, I think in the
Yes.
up in the
Barbara.
Northeast. Yeah.
She's a,
So
a New
this is
York real
Lori.
estate mogul. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was my week and it was so very, very, very fun. Um to just hang out with these folks at this conference and talk to Lori and a bunch of other people. So there you
Yeah.
go. How was your week?
I am in school and this is my, you have a belt, I have this book.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
look at this book. This came in an Amazon package and I'm like, what is this heavy package? And so this is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition. And maybe you can see, you may have heard of the DSM-5.
Yes.
The DSM-5 is the Bible of all mental health maladies. And this is where I do most of my work these days.
Yeah. So I came home Friday night. I was on the road most of the week. Paul and I are talking, and you're like, I'm obsessed with the DSM. Like, I love looking through here. So you've really kind of found a rhythm and an interest in like assessing and understanding these various diagnoses. I think it's really great and it's really fun. Doug on the left is pointing out very heavily misused piece of material, which is why it's so good to have people coming up into the field that are like, hey, we now know this.
I don't even like the word disorder. I think it's just
Yeah.
people's brains work differently, and we have decided this is normal and this is a disorder, and we have to call them disorders so that health insurance will pay to cover the care for it. But the part of what we're learning is this idea of treating a disorder versus pathologizing a person. So like for me, who has dissociative identity disorder, I am not a DID person. I am a person that has DID. This is a clever comment,
I
kind of
saw
funny.
that.
Paul's digging into two of probably I think the most misunderstood books in modern society. So I'm
Yes, I
assuming
love that. Hey, so that kind of lends itself to our topic today, which by the way, I love the title that you picked for our conversation today, that John Wayne's name is Marion.
and I think just uh, another part of my spiritual grounding today would be it's just good to be present here with you, present
Yes.
here with our those in the live stream, and just recognize how amazing human beings are at their core,
Mm,
until that amazingness is taught out of us. And it does come from a place in our society that says power and conquer and winning, which is a word we hear a lot these days, are the desirable attributes of a human being. And being uh, gentle and kind are secondary characteristics. Those are feminine characteristics, and therefore feminine equals second best. Donald Trump Jr. said that the Sermon on the Mount was, holding us back, that we got to get rid of this Jesus idea of the Sermon on the Mount because it's keeping us from solutions. So being gentle and kind and caring about people is out because that's not a masculine characteristic.
Okay. I'm going to try to not throw up during the next 20 minutes. But hearing something like that is very, very, very disturbing. Okay, so you have a very cool little checklist that helps frame up very well toxic masculinity. And we're going to get through that here in the next few minutes. So why don't you jump in on that?
Yeah, I'm talking about detoxing masculinity, and obviously toxic masculinity is one of those overused terms probably these days. But just there's a lot of things that are bad about being bio-female in America today, no question about it. But we don't spend a lot of time, I think, sometimes talking about the pain of being bio-male, and so because men aren't allowed to feel those emotions. So this was a little test that me and my friend ChatGPT came up with that says, do you need to detox from masculinity?
Lot of demands on your money these days. Trump tariffs, the damn egg prices, and wait, is that another Amazon order on my bank statement? But we ask you to consider, is it worth supporting Paul and Ashley and Evangelicalish as they talk about the spiritual journey of those of us in a post-evangelical 21st century spiritual world? Support can be for as little as $5.99 per month. Think about it. Where else do you get a brilliant and beautiful former mayor and an ex-pastor on an exciting gender journey? On Evangelicalish, nothing is off limits, and love leads the way. At times, our truth can get messy, but we're not afraid of the mess, because that's where the healing begins. That's why we're living and loving through trauma, deconstruction, and mental health challenges, and you're invited. Support the pod for just $5.99 per month. Your subscription helps cover the cost of keeping honest conversations going, and it shows us our work is not just a voice in the wind. Visit evangelicalish.com to subscribe, and let's keep this messy love journey going.
If Jesus were in America today, what would he say about the right-wing evangelical church? Pastor Paul's new novel, Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern-day parable, answers this question in a riveting story of a mysterious miracle-working stranger who upsets a conservative, evangelical town with his critique of their political views. Will the pastor and people of the local megachurch listen? Or will the church crucify the messenger all over again? Religious Right, Religiously Wrong is the story America needs right now. James Fallows, writer for The Atlantic and former speechwriter for President Jimmy Carter, says Paul's book is very much worth reading and could not be more timely. Wayne Jacobson, co-author of the mega bestseller, The Shack, says this novel will confront fears and challenge the reader to a more excellent way of living and loving. Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern-day parable is available on Amazon or at our website evangelicalish.com.
So it's a gut check quiz. When someone says, "How are you feeling?" your first reaction is to A, change the subject, B, make a joke, or C, actually take a moment to check in with yourself. So if you're anybody can work this test, but if you're bio male, do you have to make a joke about how are you feeling, or do you is it just fine and move on to the real topics, or do you actually check in with yourself? Another one is, growing up, how often did you hear, "Boys don't cry"? Stop crying, boys don't cry. Constantly, sometimes, never.
Can I ask you questions after each of these?
Sure.
Or do you want to just read them through real quick?
No. I don't even. I
Okay.
doubt I'll read them all. So just
Okay. Okay. So, no, I think they're all really good. So, on the second question, boys don't cry, sorry, I lost you for a sec.
okay.
Do you Like, what's the earliest memory you have of being told that you couldn't cry about something?
Um, I remember we we went to we were on vacation and we went to see a baseball game in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
and I was a low grade Phillies fan because they had this third baseman named Mike Schmidt that had a really cool baseball card, and so the Phillies almost came back to win, but then they lost, and my brothers were kind of making fun of me that they lost. And so I was kind of on the verge of tears because I cried very, very easily as a child. And my dad grabbed my hand and he's like, "Are you upset? Are you upset?" And it made me cry even more. And he's like, "That's it. We're never going
Mm.
to a baseball game again. We're never going to a baseball game again." That's the memory that sticks out in my mind. And that was
Ugh.
my loving father.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That just, um, and Doug on the left is sharing that his dad died when he was 7 and was told that he had to suck it up. I mean, my God, it's that in and of it, that's so traumatizing.
Yep.
Um, you know, when I think about how, like, I see a lot of videos on, like, my algorithm on Instagram is a lot of, like, really cool parenting. I don't know how I got stuck on this because my kids are old now, but so many wonderful resources and tools for parents to embrace kids' emotions and, like, how to just hold that with and I think about what you could have experienced differently, and I also know the times when I know for certain, and we talk openly about this with our kids, times when I 1,000% shut down my kids' emotions. And I was like, on a very, very small scale compared to what you just described that your dad did to you. But what I was feeling in that moment was I was so overwhelmed with pain that my kid would be in pain. And to
Right.
just try to stop that feeling in me, I was like, you have to stop acting this way so that I don't have to be so overwhelmed by the pain I'm feeling right now. And that's obviously what your dad was doing. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
damn.
don't like that you're making me uncomfortable right now. So you need to
Yes,
stop.
like it's about me. You need to
Yeah.
stop. And probably for your dad, different for me cuz different, but for your dad it was also a huge pride thing that like I couldn't have a child, a young boy who would who would cry like I just he was perpetuating and intentionally probably not aware of it, but like, nope, men don't do that. Stop it.
Yep. Yep. Boys don't
Yeah.
cry. Girls cry. You
Okay.
don't want to be a girl, do you? Kind of
Yeah.
that whole
Yeah.
feel. All right.
So,
Do you want me to read another one?
okay. Number three.
So you want me to read them all?
Well, go to the next one and let's see what it is and we can talk about it.
Okay. This one is, how comfortable are you being emotionally vulnerable in front of other men? A, not at
Yeah.
all. B, only in extreme situations. C, comfortable or getting better at it. Now, on this one, I think, men, maybe not vulnerability is the right word, but I think men like to go on these boys trips that are in some ways sort of
Yes.
homoerotic opportunities to bond with other men in ways that they can't find anywhere else. I almost think, I guess emotionally vulnerable is the key here. Not I'm going to go on a trip and we're going to go to a strip club and do guy things, and then get
Well,
close, but like
yeah,
being
no.
really emotionally vulnerable.
And I think ChatGPT got this one a little bit wrong. So I would say, because of what you just said, I think it's been popularized over the last 20 to 30 years that men would have bonding experiences. And there is a cultural expectation that if you're just with the guys around the campfire or whatever, that is okay to let your guard down and to be vulnerable. And maybe that in and of itself is some growth, which is fine, like cool. I wonder if today's version of that would be, are you comfortable being emotionally vulnerable in front of family, in front of, like a
Spouse.
mix of, spouse. Anyway, so kind of like fill in the because it depends on like, oh, I'm very comfortable being vulnerable in front of my very tightly controlled Bible study men, where the expectation and the cultural norm is you better come in and be vulnerable. Like there could be groups of guys that's not the cultural norm, and like you choose to be the one to be like, hey, I just got to be honest about something. This is how I'm feeling. Like anyway, but I get what ChatGPT is going for there.
I,
But the
you
point
know,
is, yeah, in front of people you wouldn't normally be vulnerable.
and I would tell you as a bio male, I've been in those, hey, let's get transparent together, guys, get-togethers. And I don't think
I
men are very transparent.
hated
It's
him.
just like I looked at porn this
Hated him.
week, all the acceptable guy sins.
That's
Uh,
it.
there's rarely a like somebody would say, I don't feel like my gender matches up with my body. No man would ever say that in that group,
That's right.
So vulnerability, I think, is a malleable term when it comes to guy trips and things like that. I don't think guys really get vulnerable on those trips. They get vulnerable in an acceptable range of vulnerability.
Right.
But if
Well, and
somebody
let
says
me
something really vulnerable, they all get like, oh,
yeah.
awkward. We don't know how to handle
Um,
this. Yeah.
it's the same exact thing on the female side of the equation. Like the that's why I could never ever feel like okay in the like women's Bible study or the female only. Let me say this, there were a couple of times in my life when I think I was with a group of women in a church setting, that like it was pretty authentic. So it's not to say that doesn't exist, and I also will reflect that that had a lot to do with me. I can't say that other women weren't experiencing a level of authenticity and connection with each other. Um, so definitely a me thing. But what I was feeling at the time was there is a social norm in this group. It's like my vulnerability has to match what is valued in this group. And like there's not a grid for being outside of like it's okay to say the following 10 things, but you can't say these 10 things.
Right.
So
That's
definitely a
exactly
church.
it.
Yeah.
You can be vulnerable in these ways, and that is acceptable vulnerability. Anything that uh, deviates from that norm in the women's group or the men's group is going to be met with
Yep.
awkwardness and perhaps ostracization. If I said that word,
How do you say that? Ostracization. That's a
yeah,
word. That's a
being
word.
ostracized. Yeah,
Yes.
and
Um,
there's one more here, and this is where we really get. I'll do this one, and then I'll post some of these during the week on social
okay.
media. Uh, when you're feeling low, overwhelmed, or like you might not want to keep going, how likely are you to reach out for help? A,
Mm,
I'd rather disappear than admit I'm not okay. B,
yep.
I think about it, but worry if I'll be a burden. C, I have someone I trust and I ask for support when I need it. That's one of the keys, because men do not seek help for emotional issues because they've been told big boys don't cry. And getting to that vulnerability of a therapy session where it's like, hey, this is what's really happening inside of me. We have so had that ability taken away from us in society. Oh, of course women go to therapy. They're weak and they're emotional. Yes, they're going to be 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with depression than a bio male because they're weak. No, it's because they're courageous enough or socialized enough to go seek therapy, while bio males have been openly discouraged and continue to be openly discouraged, although it's changing some. but we are discouraged from really feeling what we feel inside.
Yep. Now, I have two reflections on this point that just came to me when you were sharing it. All right. So one is a person, and I totally appreciate the point. This is harder for bio males, so I'll stick with the male thing, but I think it's true for females too. For a bio male, like if that person is able to say like, hey, I'm not having a good day and I have someone to call, to me what is in place for that person is one, that support system obviously, but two, an awareness that having a bad day is not the end of the world. That in and of itself suggests some kind of help, because I know what it feels like to be so overwhelmed you can't get out of bed, you can't pick up the phone, you're so you're so flooded with the feeling of everything is bad, doom and gloom. Like I've heard you say many a times, like, when people make a kind and generous offer of like, hey, call me if you need anything. And you're like, I cannot even move my body. What are you talking about? I'm going to call you and ask for help. So just like the point at which you are able to be like, hey, today's not a good day for me. Just need to hand that off to somebody and like, just be transparent about that. That actually suggests a person who's done a tremendous amount of healing that they can even make that call. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that's
Absolutely.
thing one. But thing two
Still
is that,
something very difficult for me to do because
yes.
I was socialized to don't make us uncomfortable. Yeah, your job, son, is to make your parents comfortable and not be a discomfort to them. And so there's
Yes.
still these parts inside of me who are like, no, we can't make Ashley uncomfortable. We can't make others around us uncomfortable. And I've had enough people ghost me that I know there's that part of me is making a good point. But anyway, you were going to go to a second point there.
Well, just to put a fine point on that, when you are at the point in life when you have that practice and that routine of like, I can share when I'm not having a good day. And I hear this a lot with our daughter, for instance. Like, um, she'll say to me now, she's 25 and she's done a tremendous amount of work, been through a lot, done a tremendous amount of work. And she can say this, she can say, hey, I know it's going to be okay, but man, today is really hard. Man, I'm really feeling this. And I really respect, like, God, that's such a strong place to be in where you can feel what you're feeling and have perspective at the same time. Like, that's amazing. Okay, but
Yeah.
thing two is this. Do you remember all the times when you and I, or me by myself, you with me, whatever, like our experience together, we'd be like really in it, like something was going on, blah, blah, blah. And there'd be some moment where either you and I would go like, oh, we're under spiritual attack. And then we would go like, oh,
Oh my
no, it's
gosh.
just a spiritual attack. But then here, hold on, listen to this. So then we would be like, we would text our prayer team, hey, we really feel like we're under spiritual attack. We're feeling this, that, and the other. And you know what? We would start getting these messages from people. Oh, I got it. We're praying for you. Da, da. And it's like the burden lifted. And for so many years, my view was obviously the prayer was working. But now I just think it was that we were we were just sharing what was going on, and other human beings received it, heard it. We're like, hey, we're with you in it. And that exchange in and of itself helped me feel like the demons were gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, but that is so well said, because I love this concept of paraclete, and paraclete is a word we interpret as Holy Spirit, and that is something outside of us, that is God fixing something for us. But what the term paraclete actually is translated in as one who walks alongside another. And I think that the Holy Spirit of the New Testament
Yes.
is human beings carrying each other's burdens. It's like, I am here to hear your worst day and your worst feeling so that you don't have to carry it alone, because it does become lighter
Yes.
when we share it
Yes.
with one another.
And I would add to that, because I do still experience slash believe that human spirit is the spark of the divine.
Yeah.
It is the part of you that goes on forever, that's connected to the, the divine. And if you're not stuck in a original sin mindset and ideology, and if your perspective is every human being carries that, a spark of the divine. So when you have a person, you can say, hey, can you just hear me today and help me hold this? That paraclete of your day that's walking alongside you, to me, that is a spiritual support. I can still see that as the Holy Spirit in another, but it's in that human container, right?
Right.
That comes
It's
through that human being, not outside of that human being.
exactly. And to put that in a little bit different wording, Holy Spirit is not a being external to us. It's not some guy out there we're asking
Yeah.
to come help. Holy
Yeah.
Spirit is us, is within us, and understanding we're connected to
Yeah.
something mystical and divine that gives us greater energy than just being ourselves. And that then when we connect that to the fact that I'm connected to you, or I'm connected to somebody else out there, that Holy Spirit becomes a really powerful thing. But it's not this guy we have to beg to have mercy on us today
Right. That's
so that we
it.
can get help. Yeah.
It is the perfect love that we can sit and reflect on and imagine that that's what connects all of us, that it is a driving force of people, like, you can reflect on it, you can observe that, and and it just like totally changes your orientation. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's my new version of prayer/meditation, is just that.
And so I
Um,
really appreciate that you brought this to people rather than just bio males. But the reason I focus on bio males in this is I've told the story of when I was diagnosed with DID, and my psychologist said, how many 37 clients with DID, how many of them do you think are male? And I'm like, oh, it must be a low number, a third. And he's like, you're the one. You're every other client I've ever had with DID is female. It just hit me like, and he says, bio males only get diagnosed with this when they are in prison and have a compulsory psychiatric exam, because men don't ask for help. We don't know what we're wrestling with. And so how it manifests itself, I think we're seeing in society today, is bio males are frustrated that they were given this ideal that they needed to be John Wayne, as Doug was saying in the chat, the breadwinner, the head of household. Even when you're hurting, you're still the protector and fighter for everybody else. And there's a frustration that's being manifest in, mistreatment of women, misogyny, all of these things, even to voting for Trump, I think comes from this frustration of like, I was told if I put on this mask of John Wayne and ignored the fact that John Wayne is really some guy named Marion, that I would have these expectations met, and they're not getting met. And why not? And I'm angry that they're not being met the way I was told. And I've had to put up with all this shit and feel terrible. So I'm angry and lashing out now. And ultimately, the very startling statistic I always go back to is that women in America are twice as likely to attempt self-harm, but men are twice as likely to kill themselves. That means women are,
Yep.
even in their self-harm attempts, are asking for help. Men are just like, I'm not going to ask
I'm
for help.
done.
I would rather be
Yeah.
disappeared
Yep.
than
Yep.
have to ask for help.
Yep. It's just
And yeah, go ahead.
no, I understand why you bring it back to bio males. It's such a driving force in culture, and we could we could spend a whole bunch of shows talking about toxic femininity as well. But it's like both. I mean, half of society, right? Like, and that half, because of chauvinism, is this deeply rooted thing that probably has to go first to create freedom for everybody on the, male, female, and everyone on the spectrum
Yeah.
of
Patriarchy
gender.
and misogyny, again, maybe overused terms, but these aren't just harmful to women. They are harmful to
Yes.
men.
Yes. Yes.
And that's really, I think, important for us to realize. And it's manifesting itself in all kinds of horrible ways. So I guess the the because we're saying, okay, what's beyond toxic evangelicalism is what do we think bio males should do? And I think it's just start to take some inventory of your actions and reactions. I think, and I, like I said, I'll post these questions on social media this week. But when you feel like, okay, I'm kind of hurting today, but I can't tell anybody that, or I wave it off as like, take inventory of that. Like, why am I doing that? There's a voice in my head, a part of me saying,
Yeah.
no, boys don't cry. Buck up, little trooper, be a man. And all of those things we hear and say, maybe I need to detox that. Maybe it's okay for me to have a moment of softness and vulnerability to say, hey, I'm not okay right now.
Well, and I'm just imagining how many men, like, let's imagine that happened and that, like, you know, across America, it's this in this next week, every male woke up and, like, or that needed to go through this sort of evolution and healing, like, had a moment and they're like, God, no, I really do want to be able to honestly share and trust somebody to help hold what is real and true and what's really going on inside of me and my system. So then I imagine, like, men turning to their spouses and being like, "Hey, this is really true for me." And how many women would be like, "Oh, no, you don't. You suck it up." Like women would spew it right back. And having been a person that's done this to you a number of times, like, I can't handle that. Back inside it goes. Stuff, stuff, stuff. So, like, yeah, this is the whole of society type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a step is like reach out to me. Sometimes it's really hard to reach out to somebody we know. And so find a kind stranger and just say, I need to talk. And, if we were to finish with a what's on my mind today, and I always tend to go to like, what am I watching on streaming these days? And I started watching a show called A Million Little Things. And it really deals with this. It's a group of 4 male friends, and one of them commits suicide, and the others now are having to reckon with, like, why did this happen? Why didn't he tell us he was hurting? Why did he always seem so happy? And it really does kind of force this test your kidneys, I call it introspection, kidneys being like test your emotions from the Bible and say, am I willing to tell somebody I'm hurting, or would I prefer just to jump off a building instead?
Yeah.
And we need you. We need you not to jump off a building. We need you not to eat your pistol, as Stephanie said here. Um, it's okay. It's okay to be hurting. Men are hurting. I have during COVID, I got the chance to interact with so many, particularly like Gen X men who, now that their children are out of the home, they're starting to have to really reckon with life, and are starting to say, I've always felt off. I've always felt like I don't match up to John Wayne, and I'm going to start to understand why, and to tell myself it's okay that I'm more Marion than I am John Wayne. And that's okay, because John Wayne is an imaginary, unreal, unattainable place for bio males to try to be emotionally and psychologically,
Yeah.
even physically, in the world.
Ooh, that's a good line. I have more Marion than John. Um, and it's super interesting that what you're currently streaming is so on point with this topic. So definitely something to share that series as well. Okay, I think what's on my mind, it's funny because every time we do what's on my mind, which we don't every week, but literally what comes up for me is my to-do list. Like, and I'm realizing I am constantly carrying the check it off, like da 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 da. That is what I walk around with my mind all the time is on what is the next thing that needs to be done. So I
Right.
think for me to sort of I was thinking about this yesterday, like I really need to I need to sit and spend some time with meditation, reflection, and I know when I'm out of whack, it's like I need to go to a mental or spiritual chiropractor when all I'm doing is carrying the to-do list. So what's on my mind is the fact that, "Oh, okay, girl, like you need to shift your mindset. You need to get some space from the to-do list and kind of open yourself up to connection, feelings, all of that." So that's what I'm committed to doing this week.
And you're going to be near the ocean this week. And
In fact, I have the perfect excuse to do just that because I'm headed to the
yeah,
coast for a little 2-day spa mini retreat with a girlfriend. So that'd be nice.
yeah, the ocean always does that for me. I always feel a lot of spiritual connection when I'm next to the ocean. I don't like to be in the ocean, and particularly in the Central Coast where we go, where the water is like 58 degrees, and
Yeah.
outside is 70 degrees, so it's very, very cold. But just seeing the expanse of the ocean, the flow of the ocean, the knowing the impact this has on Earth, it always makes me feel very much in a open to spirituality kind of headspace when I'm there.
Yes, agreed. Don't need to get in it, just need to see it.
There are big, nasty animals in there that I know that
Hell no. Don't
know
need to
how
be
to
in
move in the water much better than me. So, which I
it.
just saw a social media video this morning of a guy uh, fishing out of a kayak, and he's got these three big poles. I don't know where he is, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh boy, that's a great white shark! That's a great white shark! Got to cut off the bait before he pulls me under." And he's like reaching to try to not fall into the ocean from his kayak and trying to cut
Oh
these lines.
no.
And I'm like, this is like my worst nightmare.
Worst nightmare. Worst effing nightmare. No, thank you. No, thank you, internet. I do not want to see that.
And last thing, I know
Right.
we've got to go, but did you see Jaws when you were a kid?
I did. Well, but I saw the version that when it was on, like, remember how they used to do Sunday night movies? Like, was it CBS that would have like the movie
Oh yeah,
night?
the
And they
movie of the week
remember
or
how
something.
the movie that was so cool because it was like you got to see something that normally you could only go to the theater, but it was on your TV screen and it was edited, as a little like they took out some of the intent. So I
They
only saw it on
sanitized
TV.
it, yeah.
They sanit. I don't know if I have therefore really seen it, but that's what I saw, and it was terrifying.
Yeah, it's 50 years old. It's celebrating its 50th anniversary. I when I saw that, I'm like, holy shit, I'm old.
Well, I mean, I probably was watching it on TV when I was 6 or 7 or 8, and so it was at quite a while after it had been released in the theater then.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. Ugh, that
Yay, things that are
yeah,
50. Woot woot.
that movie changed how everybody went in the water forever. And by the way,
Forever.
getting attacked by a shark is like one of the rarest things that can ever happen to you. Just
Still
FYI.
not getting in the water. Still not doing it. All
All
right.
right.
We gotta wrap
Try
up here.
to test your kidneys out there, bio males and bio females.
And share
And
your experiences this week. Let's hear
yeah,
from you guys. It would be really encouraging to just hear what's going on with you.
I love that. Okay. Do all the stuff. Like this, share it. It'll be out as a podcast on audio soon. You can share with people, Spotify, Apple, all the stuff, and sign up for our newsletter. I did such a good job on it this week. Somebody's got to read it. So thank you all for being with us. We love you. We will see you next time.